It's Nolan. Now, before we get started, make sure y'all hitting that like button. Make sure y'all sharing it on your respective platforms. Let somebody know what we're doing today. Now, let's get into the show.
Yeah, success pending from the moment I wake. These tastemakers still blocking, so I'm flooding the gates. I study the greats, watch my environment, understanding assignment, divinity, striving for early retirement. I'm focused. Nobody showed me how to get it, so I got myself. Built the rotation like a timing belt. I used to really want plaques, the fame chasing, had us breaking our backs. They advertise everything that we lack. My dog Chino kept the heat in his slacks. Sound crazy, the generation of crack babies. The late 80s and early 90s when it was grimy. That's what designed me, defined me. Didn't have no Abercrombie, too broke to have a hobby. Food desert Mojave, stop on them ramen noodles. Them kids now be on them perks, you gotta check they pupils. Popping on IG with school IDs, can't tell them nothing till they hook the IVs. I been crossing my T's, dotting my I's, watching online. The money coming, just a sign of the times. I put in years though, rappers flipping bars that I created from years ago. I just can't feel them like doctors refusing physical swole. I shatter their dreams and glue them back together. This is Kyrie verse, Kimber, y'all act like y'all don't remember how 97 and Netflix. Patreon on my guest list, I don't speak to the check it, I'm devising my exit.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's the Kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, and I'm one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. Hope everybody is doing well out there this Sunday. Happy holiday weekend for y'all, Memorial Weekend. In this video, we're going to be talking about the chatter going on about whether or not Kid Cudi is a snitch for taking the stand in this Diddy trial. All right, I'm gonna tell y'all off the rip. My opinion, I don't think he is. I've never known Kid Cudi to be a criminal. I've never known him to be a street dude or some sort of hardcore type of nigga. Like, he seemed like a dude that came into the music industry, wanted to get his point across. He sung about his feelings, depression, you know what I'm saying? Overall, it seemed like he just came into the music industry to try to find financial freedom and to speak his mind about his life. Outside of that, I don't know. Right? But for whatever reason, there's people within the so-called culture of hip hop or black culture as a bigger conversation that are trying to call him a snitch, such as a Young Thug, right? Calling him a rat. You have somebody like a Glasses Malone, who before Kid Cudi was slated to take the stand, he said, I wonder if he's going to keep it hip hop. Coming from an artist who people don't even appreciate as a hip hop artist, although his sound pulls from hip hop. Most rappers in the music industry, most people who consume rap music would never even call Cudi hip hop like that, although he's hip hop adjacent and he's of the culture, he's from the culture, but that ain't the style of music he really makes other than the production, right? I don't even know where you would call him. Alternative hip hop at most, not R&B, but whatever. All that being mentioned, he did take the stand a couple days ago. I told y'all from the jump I probably wouldn't be able to keep up with everything going on in the Diddy trial. Told y'all that in the first video because there's too much going on in the world, too much going on in hip hop, too much going on, period, to keep up with everything. And this Diddy thing is a everyday. It's 5 days a week for 8 weeks. I cannot sign up for no shit like that. Told niggas that from the beginning. If you didn't hear me, I don't know how much clearer I have to be. Right? There's people that are on the ground that took time to go to New York, others that are based in New York that are covering that on a daily level. I suggest you find your favorite out of those people because it's no way that I can do that. Okay? But what I will do is cover what I have time for and what stands out. All right? So, Number one thing I'm gonna get to is Kid Cudi thanking those that who have supported him, who have not been trying to diminish him in any sort of way or downplay him or make him seem less than for coming and telling his truth about what happened to him and ultimately tell what he knows about what may have happened to Cassie in the limited time that they were spending time together. So let me pull this video up, and then we're going to actually get into his testimony of his account of events in dealing with Cassie and subsequently having dealings with Diddy.
Hey guys, so I just want to say, man, I've been seeing all the love and support, and I just want to say thank you so much, man. People been hitting me up the past week, just checking in, and even today, and it really means a lot to me, man. You guys are the best. I love y'all. This is a stressful situation. I'm glad it's behind me, and yeah, I love y'all, man. Big love. Go stream Neverland.
All right. So that was Kid Cudi thanking the fans, thanking everybody that supported him. He's held on to this information for when did this happen? 2011. We're in 2025. He's held on to this information for like 13 and a half, going on 14 years. Never once complained, never once came on social media, never once, was down at the police station pointing fingers or anything, which he probably should have done when it happened. But I'm sure he didn't want to incite further violence against himself or Cassie by agitating the situation. But again, we're going to get into his testimony and see exactly what it was. I'm sure you've probably heard this stuff by now, but if you're here watching, I appreciate it. And we're just going to go through it to see what exactly was said that would even make people have such an emotional reaction. So here we are on Inner City Press. They're doing weekly overviews from this Diddy trial. So at the end of every week, he'll be releasing like an ebook that gives you the recap of what happened in court with testimony and things of that nature. So shout out to him for putting that out there. So this piece here says Freezer Meat and Kid Cudi's burning car. Now, Freezer Meat is not associated with Cudi. We'll get to that at a later time. Okay, that's the Punisher. But they say here, for the arrival at the Diddy trial of his nemesis, Scott Mescudi, whose Porsche was burned up in Los Angeles, Homeland Security officers and U.S. Marshals stood out on Worth Street. Upstairs, before the jurors came in, the talk of Kid Cudi's dog. There was some laughter, as there had been earlier in week 2 when the male dancer known as the Punisher used the trial to promote his ED book with Freezer Meat in the title. ED as in erectile dysfunction. Trying to keep up between references to Prince's party, to Tesla, and Obama's face imprinted onto drugs was not easy, but this was U.S. v. Sean Combs, and I'm covering it since the night before, or I'd been covering it since the night before the arrest and indictment. So I pushed forward, including pushing to get more of the filings in the case put into the public docket. Inner City Press has been trying to write to the judge and trying to implore them to stop keeping things off record. They're having private conversations, all these sidebars, all these different things that they're doing. He's trying to say, hey, y'all are discussing things in this case that are not being documented, right? He also was trying to get them to release some of these photos and or videos of Diddy's freak-offs and things of that nature to the public. I don't think that will happen, but we shall continue. All right, I've moved myself to the center of the screen just so I won't impede with the documentation here. And we're going to get into Cudi, all right? So they say, next witness. U.S. Attorney says we call Scott Mescudi. Kid Cudi takes the witness stand in a leather jacket, white shirt, and blue jeans. They ask, what did you do for work? Cudi says, I'm an actor and musician known as Kid Cudi. They ask, who is this? Show him a photo. He says, Cassie. Cudi says, we dated in 2011. U.S. Attorney asks, who else was she involved with? Cudi confirms, Sean Combs. What did you know about their status? He says that she and Sean Combs had problems and they weren't dating anymore. U.S. Attorney also asks, In December 2011, did law enforcement respond to your home? Okay, he says, yes, I had a break-in. Cassie called me at 5:30 or 6 a.m. She said Sean Combs had found out about us. She asked me to pick her up, so I did. Okay, so he called about a break-in because he didn't know what the fuck was going on. And I guess she ended up contacting him, letting him know what happened or why there was a break-in at his crib. Okay. She said Sean Combs had found out about us. She asked me to pick her up, so I did. Why? Cudi says she was worried. What was her demeanor? Cudi says very stressed and worried. Where did you go? The Sunset Marquise. Why? Cudi says I thought it was safe, off the radar. Who else did you speak with? Cudi says Capricorn Clark. She sounded near tears, and Capricorn was another employee of Bad Boy and Diddy at the time. Don't know what she's doing currently. She may still be with them for all I know. I don't know. U.S. Attorney says, what did she say? Cudi responds that Sean Combs in the car near my house. Brian Steele comes in and says, objection! Judge says, overruled. U.S. Attorney, you called Sean Combs? Cudi says, I did. He said, I'm over here waiting for you. When you arrived, what did the outside look like? Cudi says, pretty normal. Any security camera? He says, yes, but I found out they weren't working. So he had some cameras on the premises of his home, but they were no longer working on this particular day. Okay. Cudi says, but the security cameras had been moved. They asked, did you move them? He says, no. What did you see inside your home? Cudi says, gifts were open, some stuff I got from Chanel, and my dog was locked up in the bathroom, okay? And remember, this was around Christmas time, if I'm not mistaken, when this stuff was going on. All right? U.S. Attorney says, how did you usually leave your dog? He says, I let him roam. How long had you had your dog? 3 years. What changes were behavior of your dog after the break-in? Cudi says jittery, on edge all the time. So the dog was now paranoid. He says, I got back in and called Sean Combs again. I was looking for him. I wanted to fight him, you know. They asked, did he answer? He said, yeah. He said, I'm on my way. I thought to myself, objection! Judge says grounds. Steele says non-responsive, overruled. Ask a new question. When you saw Cassie, how did she seem? Cudi says depressed. Did you see Cassie in Connecticut? Yes, he says. She needed it. Did Mr. Combs call you? Cudi says yes, he hit me a few times. They ask what hit it means. He says called me because, you know, he's speaking in colloquialism. He's speaking in street slang. U.S. Attorney says, what did you say? Cudi responds that I didn't want to talk with him. He broke into my house, hurt my dog. Did you and Miss Ventura break up? He says, yes. What about your car? Cudi says, my dog's babysitter called me and told me my car was on fire. Where were you? He says, at a relative of my ex-girlfriend. Where'd you go? He says, to my house, 8925 Hollywood Hills Road. They said, let me show you 6 pictures. Do you recognize? Cudi recognizes and says, my Porsche. That's the damage to my Porsche from the Molotov cocktail. They asked who took the photos. He said Chip, a good friend and collaborator. And if you're not familiar, that's Chip the Ripper, rapper, also originally from Cleveland, who used to do a lot of music with Cudi and was, I guess you could say signed to him. Chip the Ripper came out on social media and he also commented on this and said, you know, a lot of people were asking how he was able to hold on to this information for so long without speaking on it. He said, I guess just holding shit down is a superpower nowadays. Okay. So they ask, what's predicted here? Cudi says the hole they cut in the roof on my car to put in the Molotov cocktail. What was your reaction to your car being set on fire? He said, what the fuck? Objection! Overruled, nigga. Break. So before the jurors come back, there's a little bit of a side conversation here. Judge says, will you finish the witness of today? U.S. Attorney says yes, though the cross of Mr. Kaplan was 3 times long what we thought. Okay, so they say, yeah, we'll be done with him, but y'all left us with very little time. Jury comes back in. They resume. Was the damage on your car present before the call from the dog sitter? He says no. Did you think it was accidental or intentional? Well, they cut a fucking hole in his roof. He says intentional. Where did you last see Miss Ventura? Cudi says at the Soho house. I'd reached out to Sean Combs and said, let's talk. This is getting out of hand. Brian Steele jumps in, says, can we have a sidebar? Judge says, do you have an objection? Steele says, yes. Judge says, sustain, disregard, and move on. Okay. U.S. Attorney jumps back in, says, who set up the meeting at Soho House? Cudi says, D-Rock and my manager. Remember, D-Rock is a part of Diddy's security at this time, old friend of Biggie, and he stayed in the bad boy regime after Biggie passed. U.S. Attorney says, what was Mr. Combs doing? Cudi says, standing there like a Marvel supervillain, like he was untouchable. They laugh. Cudi says, he said, we were homies. You know that's my girl. U.S. Attorney says, what did you say? Cudi said, I thought you had broken up. Then Sean Combs offered me water twice. He says it was weird, Sean Combs being so calm. Boy, who know what the fuck was in that water, man? What the hell you offering me water for, man? We at a motherfucking restaurant. I could get my own water, nigga. The hell? What did Cassie say? That we have fallen in love. Things happen. What did you say to Mr. Combs? Cudi says, what about my car? He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I walked away. So he ain't want to press it. After the nigga lied in his face, he said, man, fuck this shit. U.S. Attorney says, did you see Sean Combs later? Cudi says, a few years later, also at Soho House. He said, I'm just sorry for all that bullshit. I was surprised, so I found peace with it. So Diddy actually came back years later and apologized for everything that he had put him through surrounding, them being intertwined with Cassie. U.S. Attorney says no further questions at this time. Judge says, Mr. Steele. Combs Brian Steele says, I want to ask you some questions about your Porsche in 2022. Cudi says 2012, so he had the date wrong. Steele says, I apologize. You get a call about damage to your vehicle. Any surveillance photos? Cudi says, no, my dog's babysitter did send me pictures of the damage. Steele says, the DNA taken. Are you aware it came back being a female? Objection! No foundation. Sustain. Do you know there were DNA results? Judge says, I'll allow that. Cudi says, no. Steele says, Miss Ventura told you it was over, so they're saying, hey, we don't know. You can't prove that Diddy himself did it, which I don't think anybody said it was him in person doing it. But that maybe somebody was sent to carry this out. But he said, hey, the DNA on the car came back female, right? It was objected, though. Ms. Ventura told you it was over. Cudi says, we just stopped talking. You told this honorable court and this jury that she played you. Cudi says, yes. She played you and you had no clue? Cudi says, no clue. Steele says, in 2011, you went on a tour? Cudi says, yes. And of course, Brian Steele being part of Diddy's defense team, him pointing out that Cassie played him would also speak to, the character that they're trying to portray of her in the courtroom. If she played you, what do you really know about this woman? Right? 65 locations. Cudi says, yeah. At that time, Sean Combs as an icon, fair to say. Cudi says, yes, you and Miss Ventura had a sexual relationship. Objection! Sidebar. Cudi says, Mr. Steele cannot. Judge says, no, you can do that on redirect. Steele asks, do you want to tell me something? Cudi says, Sean Combs asked me about doing a song with Miss Ventura in 2010. Steele says, thank you. You believe they left your front door unlocked? Cudi says, yes. No forced entry? No. Just presence open, door in the bathroom. I'm not belittling, just asking. You called Sean Combs? Cudi says, yeah. Steele says he was calm. Yeah, so he's basically trying to downplay the entry of the break-in. No forced entry. His presents were open. Dog in the bathroom is what he said, not door. So he says some things were moved around. Your dog was put in the bathroom, but nothing more crazy than that. Okay? Other than a blown up car. After that, Steele says, you went to see him. You didn't think he had a gun? Cudi says, I couldn't call it. You're a strong person. That's how you categorize yourself. Cudi says, yeah, this crossed the line. Steele says, Miss Ventura told you she was abused. Cudi says, yes. But she never said she was sexually abused, true? Cudi says she did not. You loved her? Tell me if I'm wrong. Cudi says, I did. So, okay. So he confirmed that he felt like him and Cassie was deep in it. Steele says, you got played by the same person who played Mr. Combs, Cassie Ventura. In the 13 years since, have you ever been notified in California that there's been any more action on this car fire? Cudi says, no. Did Miss Ventura have multiple phones? Cudi says, I don't remember. Steele goes to 3512. I guess that's an exhibit. Showing him, I guess, a quote. Cudi says, if I said it, I said it. I don't remember it, but if I said that, cool, whatever. Steele says, do you know what a burner phone is? Cudi says, untraceable. The trespass, you call it a break-in. Not a trespass. You call it a break-in. Miss Ventura told you she'd given you your home address to Mr. Combs. Cudi says, yes, in the morning. So it sounds to me that they're implying that Cassie set you up, homie. That's the type of verbiage that Steele is using here. He's basically trying to paint the picture that Cassie duped you. She played you. She played Diddy. You got this trespassing thing. It wasn't forced entry. The door was left unlocked. They didn't force their way in. So she must have, mistreated your trust and let him in your crib. Right? Which I don't necessarily disagree with. That she may have done that. Only thing is, Diddy is basically her pimp. You know what I mean? That's what's going on here in my eyes. She runs off with Cudi. They doing their thing for a little bit. He finds out what's going on. He finds out where she is because she can't stay away from him for too long. She's not going to keep ignoring his calls and texts for extended periods of time because she's under his thumb. So she has a weakness to give in and let things be known. And once he gets a hold of her, he going to make demands. She's most likely going to comply. But we'll continue. Judge redirect, U.S. Attorney Johnson. What did Miss Ventura confide in you about abuse? Cudi says that he would hit her sometimes, kick her. The day of the break-in, was she carefree? Cudi says no. What did Capricorn tell you? Cudi says Sean Combs and an affiliate forced her into a car to come to my house. I called the police. All right, so we're getting into further details here of Diddy allegedly forcing her into the car with another person, and she was forced to tell them how to get to his crib. He says, I called the police. How would you describe Cassie that day? Cudi says, just really shook, him finding out about us. Why did your relationship with Miss Ventura end? Cudi says the drama. It was getting out of hand. I wanted to give space. What drama? Cudi says the break-in. For my safety, her safety. Objection! Grounds, speculation. Overruled. Why did you have safety concerns? Cudi says because I knew Sean Combs was violent. Steele jumps in. Your Honor, may we approach? Sidebar. The meeting at the Soho house, Mr. Combs said, I don't know what you're talking about your car. Did you believe him? Objection! Judge says rephrase. What was your understanding? Cudi says that he was lying. No further questions. Judge says any recross? Steele says no, Your Honor. Judge says, Mr. Muscuddy, you're done. Cudi says, all right. So that's the end of Kid Cudi's testimony. He talks about coming in to, he's having a little relationship with Cassie. He's under the impression that her and Diddy are done. He's spending time with her at her family house, just trying to kind of be a confidant and a source of protection. They're spending time at his home. Diddy kind of starts getting the inkling again. She's got multiple phones. So he ends up getting in contact with her, takes her under the wing, and like, yo, the hell? We need to, what's going on with this nigga? You out here with him? What? Not the nigga I just was trying to get you to do a song with. Right? They do what they do, break in his crib, open up his gifts, just do some little things to get his attention. Some people might say, oh, that's not a real break-in. It's just enough to let you know, hey, nigga, yeah, you see what's going on, I'm on to you. But then they elevate it further, cut a whole ass hole in the roof of his Porsche, set his car on fire, and Diddy said he wanted his friends to see it, which Cudi's friend, Chip the Ripper, did see, took photos, and shortly thereafter, Cudi like, man, this is too much for me. I fuck with you. I said I love you, but goddamn, I love myself more than anything else. What else this thing gonna try to do, man? You gonna lock my dog in the bedroom, dog acting jittery and shit, looking left or right without crossing the street? The fuck am I supposed to do out here, man? I'm just one man. I ain't no gangster. Now, Cudi can handle himself. I think back in the days before he was, taken off as a rapper, I think he had to defend like this fashion store that he used to work on from a break-in or something like that. He got out on a little something, but he ain't no fucking gangster. He ain't no killer. So you're like, bruh, I'm just trying to do my tour. I'm trying to live. I'm trying to live life. I'm trying to, goddamn, there's other women I could find for this shit. Right? So that's his story. And you have people in hip hop and in the community trying to say he's a snitch. Oh boy, it just goes to show you how much growth, how much farther we have to go as a people if we can't break out of shit like this. This nigga's out here being a fucking tyrant, and I have no qualms about my stance on Diddy. If you don't like my stance on Diddy, you disagree, that's your personal thing. I'm gonna share my perspective because that's what I do on my channel. Out here being a tyrant, being a pimp, being a trafficker. And this nigga just tells his limited scope of a couple months of what happened. Like, hey, she was beat up. She came to me. She told me what happened. I stepped in. I wanted to protect her. This is what happened to me. This nigga don't got no street code to live by. He didn't sell crack with nobody, to my knowledge. You know what I mean? The shit niggas in our community deem as respectable and honorable is crazy. But that's why certain people are able to do fucked up shit for decades. Then we wonder, how did that float under our nose? Because niggas are scared to say what the fuck going on. Weird ass niggas. Anyway, let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Become an insider. I will catch y'all on the next one. We have a whole nother week of things to come. Yes, I know Don was on there. I know the Punisher was up there. I know another one of Diddy's assistants was also cross-examined throughout the week. But again, time. I don't have time to read through 5 days of testimonies. I just don't. Okay? But we have another week ahead of us. We'll see what ends up being the high-level conversation that we can try to address moving forward. All right? I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.
King of my city and cul-de-sac. Coming out swinging like soldier rags. Leading my people like quarterback. But I study this shit, I'm an almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the Gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef for computers, so straight out the sewer. We come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest. But drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they doubted me. All of a sudden they tell me they proud of me. I've been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some boundaries. Stand for my honor, but you run no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. When I catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.